And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with the Game Boy Geek.
Hello there, my friends, the Game Boy Geek. You remember when you were a kid and you played the game Clue and you had a lot of fun? And then as you got older, you started to play a little bit more and you're like, I spent half the game rolling and moving. This isn't fun. Today we're going to play a game that once you've played it, you will never ever touch Clue again. Now, this is called Sleuth, and it's published by Griffin Games, and it's designed by Sid Sackson, the late great Sid Sackson, who also did Acquire, I'm the Boss, Can't Stop, many others. He takes those deductive elements from Clue and just strips it down to its bare core, makes it so beautiful, such a great designed game, and we're going to check it out today and play it, show you how it's played, show you how amazing this little tight game can be. It's from 3 to 7 players, from 10 and up ages, and it takes about anywhere from a half hour to an hour depending on how many players. So let's take a look. In Sleuth, you're trying to be the one to find which of the 36 gems is the one that's been stolen. Only one of them has been stolen, and you use your deductive nature to try to figure this out. At the beginning of the game, these are all shuffled, the gem cards, and one is placed in the box out of the game, and that is the stolen gem. Now, the rest of these are shuffled out. Once the missing gem is out of the game, the rest of the gem cards are dealt out evenly to the amount of players. In this case, we have 4 players. So you pass them out until everybody has the same amount of cards. The remainder, there's 3 left. It wouldn't be evenly distributed, so there's 3 remaining. Those cards go face up in the middle of the table. The rest of the people then get to take their own gem cards and start crossing off the ones they know aren't the missing gem, because there's only 1 card of each gem type. Now, if we look at the 36 different gems that are there, they're segmented into different categories. Going up and down here, we have colors, and we have red, yellow, green, and blue. Going up this way, we have 3 different types of gems. We have diamonds, opals, and pearls, and then each of those gems have a single, a double, and a cluster, as they called. So 1, 2, or 3 of each of the gems. So that's how they're done. And so here we see we have a blue pearl cluster. Now remember, these are the 3 that everyone gets to see at the beginning of the game because the cards, those are the remainders after everyone has gotten an even amount. So in this case, I see blue pearl cluster. I would go to blue, I'd go to pearls, and I'd go to the cluster, which is the 3. And I can pretty much mark off that this one is not part of it. And then that's me sitting right there. Same for the red pearl cluster, and same for the green opal solitaire. Green opal solitaire. So I already know that those 3 aren't there. Now, you do the following thing for all the rest of the cards that you had gotten secretly. Of course, you don't want any of your friends to see what you're doing, so you're going to use something to block this from everybody else, so nobody can see what you're doing here, because this is really important information. In the 4-player game, since everyone gets 8 cards and there's 3 left over, I now have 11 X's that I know that these gems are not the missing gem, because I've just gone through all my own cards, and we have the 3 that were there. After everyone has marked off the gems they started the game with, everyone gets 4 of these black sleuth cards, and it doesn't matter how many players you're with, you always get 4 of them, and everyone has them all face up. So we have a player mat here, 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 and here. And so on a turn, each person gets to use one of these as a clue to ask somebody. So let's take a closer look at what some of these look like. Now, looking at the 4 cards that I have, again, my question has to come from one of these 4 cards. Now, if I don't like any of these, and this happens towards the end of the game, for my turn, I can throw all these 4 to the discard pile and get 4 new ones. But they're typically 1 or 2 element cards. This one says opals, so this is a 1 element card. And, they could be any element. In this case, it says opals, but they could just be any other gem. Maybe it would be diamonds or pearls, or it might just be colors. It could be a red or a green or a yellow card. Whenever it's a 1 element card, you get to ask any of the other people in the game, and you could say, tell me how many opals you have. Now, when it's a 1 element, they don't get to actually give you cards. They just tell you verbally out loud how many opals they have. So in here, let's just say I say to the player to the right, opals, how many opals do you have? And they say, I have 3 opals. And so I would probably want to mark something on my sheet to my player to the right having 3 possible opals of all the opals that are left. And I linked them together with maybe a letter. So all these are linked, and there's 3 out of all the ones that are linked with A, 3 of them. Now, that's a 1 thing. Now, he doesn't get to say anything else. Now, if it's a 2 element, we see blue clusters, we see blue pairs, and we see red pairs. Each of those have 2 elements, colors and something else here. So if on my turn, instead of asking the single element, if I had asked one of these other elements like red pearls, and so I had asked the person, the same person, let's just say, show me your red pearls. They would take their cards, and if they had any red pearls, they would have to show them to just you. And when they're passing those to you, they would tell everybody else how many cards that they are showing you. And maybe he showed me this single pearl here, and I know this guy was the one that gave it to me. And everybody else just knows that he gave us 1 card. So when it's not your turn, if you're asking for a 2 element, you're getting some information, but you're not getting as much as the person asking it. Where if you're asking a single element clue, you're getting the same information as everybody else. Now you can only ask 1 clue on your turn, and it goes to the next player's turn. Now after I get the answer for that clue, this gets discarded, and I draw a new one for my next turn. Now there are some other cards out there that are very powerful, which are called free choice cards. Sort of a wild. In this case, this is a free choice pairs card. If I had this and I wanted to use it on my turn as my only clue question, free choice pairs. I could ask anybody about any type of pairs. I could say colors. I could say, hey you, how many green pairs do you have? Or show me your green pairs. Or blue pairs. Or show me your opal pairs. So pretty much any of the other 2 variables, which is color and gem type, you could ask about, but that's always going to be pairs. The free choice is really the most powerful card in the game because this allows you to use a question with 1 or 2 elements, but any of them. It's really a free ask question using any 2 elements that you want. So there are a lot of these free choice things that are very powerful. As it gets towards the end of the game, or at any time, if you think you know which gem is the missing gem, at any time, even if it's not your turn, you can make a final accusation. And you do so by telling everybody you're going to do it, and you say which gem you think is missing. You then look at the pile of the 1 card that was put back in the box at the beginning of the game. If you're right, you win and you show everybody. If you're wrong, you are essentially out of the game. You can no longer win, but you have to stay and answer questions and show people your cards if you're questioned. Now, there's one other thing about this is, let's say I have 2 boxes left. On my turn, I have an ability once per game to ask someone any free choice question. So I have 2 left here. It's either a green diamond solitaire or a green diamond cluster. Let's say I've got it narrowed down to these 2. I can ask a free choice question to any person, and I could say, show me your green clusters. And let's say I know that nobody else has had this. This person didn't have it. This person didn't have it. I know that I don't have it. Let's say I asked this person, show me your green clusters diamonds. Show me your green clusters. And they show it to me. So I know he has it, and I cross this off. Now, after you ask that free choice question on your turn, you have to make your final accusation right then, and then you can see if you win. So it's sort of like you get 1 sort of wild card where you can ask anybody anything, but you have to make your final accusation right away. And you can only do that when it's your turn. Otherwise, you can make your final accusation at any time, but if you're out, you're out. Essentially, that's how you play Sleuth. Alright, well there's Sleuth. Now those of you who've watched my videos know that I love deduction games. A huge amount of my collection has a deductive element in it. So, how does this stack up with the others? I've got to say, I was so blown away by this game. I am kind of mad that I had not yet played it until now. Because, it's one of those games that's easy to look over. It's a small box. It's been around for a while. So often we get tied up into this cult of the new where we always get to see what the newest thing's coming out. Where right under our noses is sitting there games of pure mastery like this that are just so beautiful and so awesome to play. So I'm kind of kicking myself that it took me so long to kind of play this game and kind of find it. I'm so glad I did, because this game, in my opinion, is the best deduction game, most purest, to the point, no frills deduction game that I own and that I've probably ever played. It is amazing. The way that he was able to sort of take something that people were familiar with, like Clue, but then strip it down to its core. Take out the rowing moving, take out the only asking one person. But then he put a framework around it with those cards that you have 4 options of things to ask. So it doesn't get too confusing. There's never too many options. It takes 5 minutes to teach. And everyone that I've played this with is like, whoa, this is like Clue, but a gazillion times better. So now I have a lot of heavier, thicker deduction games like Letters from Whitechapel that take 2 hours to play, really deep. And I gotta tell you, this thing gets to the table more because I can play it with people who aren't, used to playing deep games because they're familiar with Clue. It takes 5 minutes to teach, takes 30 minutes to play if you're playing with like 3 or 4 people. My favorite is 3 or 4. 5, 6, or 7, I still love the game. I'll never turn down the game, but it does take longer and there's a lot more thinking because you don't get as many cards at the beginning. So overall, I've got to say I've got so many deduction games in my library. I've got to say this is my favorite one. This is absolutely the best deduction game I have, and that's huge, and it's easily in my top 10, probably 6 or 7, my favorite game of all time of all the ones that I own, just because I love deduction. And for a game that's as simple as it is, it still has like this brain-burning component of you trying to figure it out. And I just love that. It's so pure. It's just amazing. You've got to try it out. Even if you don't like deduction games, give this one a try. I think you might like it. And if you do even remotely like deduction games, this is the biggest no-brainer in the history of the earth. You've got to get this game. Now, there is not a bad thing, but something that I would probably recommend is like, because I mentioned that, everyone's at this cult of the new and checking on all the new games. One thing that would be cool to do with this game is, because it's been sort of under the radar for a while now because of all the new stuff coming out, I would love, the theme is kind of dry. It's gems, colors and gems, and 1, 2, or 3 of them. I would love to see someone do something with this game, completely retheme it, maybe even rename it, where it's like, oh, this is basically Sleuth, but something else. Rename it, retheme it. There's a million different ways that you could retheme this game. Give it some new juice, some new life. Have it come out in a nice, new, awesome-looking box with new artwork that you don't necessarily have to pay homage to its history. And just blow people's socks off when they play it. They're like, oh my gosh, this game's amazing. Like, yeah, it's basically Sleuth, rethemed. I wouldn't change any of the mechanics, wouldn't change any of the rules, but I would just repackage it into something that the cult of the newers will get and go, oh, this is the best new game, and someone's gonna be like, no, it's not. This is that. So one just idea is I'd love to see this thing rethemed into a more modern, futuristic, or just something that's more, a lot cooler than just the gems. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't care that it's just gems. I play this game all the time. But if I had one comment to say that could make this game better is redo the theme and maybe even the name, throw it out there, and I think this thing would sell out like hotcakes to all the new people out there that haven't yet played.
So much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.